And that's what we're going to be doing right now as we welcome our first guest to the stage for now. Please join me in welcoming all the way from that table there. It's James Cardus from Silverson. Come on up, James. Come on, round of applause, everybody. It's a long way.
David, thanks.
Welcome, James. Welcome, welcome. There we go. No smoke, I'm afraid, no fireworks. A little ripple of music and a little ripple of applause, but it is a Thursday morning. I think we'll allow that for now.
It's more than I usually get, so...
Yes, yes, I know that feeling all too well. James, how has PPMA Show 2024 been for you?
It's been lovely, and it's a consistently good show for Silverson, which is why Silverson probably been here going on 25 years or something like that. It's a staple for us, especially here in the UK. It's our main show.
You've not been there for all 25 of those, but just tell us a bit about Silverson, though, if you may.
Well, in short, and this, for those here today, a lot of you are familiar with Silverson. Silverson manufactures high shear mixers. High shear mixers basically do a lot of the mixing tasks that conventional mixing equipment can't do. Difficult mixing tasks. It could be things like creating fine emulsions, disintegrating solids, breaking down particle sizes, droplet sizes, mixing things of higher viscosities, things like that, where your normal stirrer won't quite do the job.
Yep.
You need something that's more energy intensive, and that's what the high shear mixer does.
And you are British based?
Absolutely,
but
yep.
with an international outlook. You described it to me earlier on.
Well, yeah, so Silverson was formed in the late 40s. So Silverson's been around over 75 years, and it started off making machines very, very locally, and that technology worked brilliantly. They found more applications for it. The company grew, and today, Silverson makes and supplies machines to over 150 countries.
That's pretty much all, I'd say 3/4 of the countries.
Yes, yeah,
okay.
That's pretty much all of them. But everything that Silverson manufactures is made here in England, and that's never changed. And for over 50 years, it's been made in the same building. And some of the people who are there in that building have been working since that building opened. We've got people on the shop floor who have been working there 50 years.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
It's a good story. Let's talk about the products themselves. I want to say flash mix. That kind of takes us along the line of what we're going to be talking about today. But, I mean, for our audience here and those of you watching online and on the big screen as well, we've got some product behind us as well. And is this the kind of flash mix range that we're talking about today?
It is. So we'll talk a bit about it with the live demonstration when we get going. But the high shear mixer at its core comes down to rotor stator technology. And that's what Silverson pioneered in the first place in the 40s. That's become immensely popular. And over the years, that technology has evolved into what we refer to as inline mixers. And the flexibility that you get with inline mixers is immense, because you can really scale up processes to huge sizes using an inline mixer. But what we've been lacking somewhat is the in-between between big production scale and the tabletop lab scale that Silverson's always done very well, but we've had that feedback from customers saying, well, we want to be making something on a pilot scale, or we want to be making something at a small scale, but in a hazardous area, because some of our customers are mixing volatile components like solvents and flammable materials. They need to be in an ATEX zone. So really, the focus today is to introduce a machine that I suppose fills in the gap in that range. You mentioned flash mix, and we're talking primarily about the flash mix for this talk today. The flash mix is a powder incorporation machine. And incorporating powders into liquids is a challenging application, and powder handling at the best of times can be tricky, and some powders are very, very difficult to handle indeed. And the flash mix is a system that's designed to make that process quick, easy, and reliable.
Give me some relatable applications for these, as we were chatting about earlier on. Tell me something that my wife would understand that one of these machines processes, and what would come out the other end, and how she would consume that, for example.
Well, maybe the most relevant thing to talk about is actually what we're going to be trialing here today. So we're going to be doing a demonstration today with a powder called guar gum. And guar gum will be familiar to many people here. It's a very common additive for thickening solutions in the food industry. So we're talking soups, syrups, sauces, things like that. In the beverage industry, people will add it to plant milks to give them some stability and things. So it's very, very likely that your wife, for example, will have gone to the supermarket and purchased multiple products that will have been blended in a Silverson machine, and most likely with a flash mix machine over the last few days to give that product its characteristics.
Yes.
It's often the Silverson high shear mixer that's responsible for bringing out some of the wonderful flavors that we have in food products as well. High shear is great for that. So we're going to be seeing a demonstration today of one of those materials that goes into food products.
Okay, and in particular, just coming back to the specific product that we'll be taking a look at, this is the gap in the market that you feel you've identified, which is you've got the big systems, but what about those who are maybe piloting something or trying something, or they're in the development lab, where those larger systems might not necessarily be practical. You want something that's maybe got a smaller throughput, right?
Yeah. I mean, it goes back, so in the early days of Silverson, actually the first machine with the rotor-stator technology that Silverson made, which is fitting because we've got an ice cream stand right next to us, it was actually an ice cream mixer.
Right.
So the original owners of Silverson were making ice cream, and they wanted to find something that made that process quick and easy, because it's actually quite difficult to make ice cream. So they developed that, and then from there found, well, hang on, there's applications in multiple other food products, and then we can expand it into the pharmaceutical industry, and it grew from there. So our customers throughout a whole wide range of applications are making these, and therefore it is important that we can follow that process through from the lab scale right through to the really big scale stuff. And so having something on a pilot scale assists in that scale-up process, and it takes the guesswork out of it. So rather than making something on a small scale and then doing the maths and then thinking, right, well, we need to have this machine to make 10 tons of that wonderful product, actually we can follow that through the whole process.
All right, why don't we see this in action? We've got the TV cameras back at your stand at F70, and I'm hoping that Mick, there he is, Mick is on the other end. Now, I'm going to let you into a secret, ladies and gentlemen. Mick has been thrown in at the deep end. Mick has been with the company for a grand total of how many weeks, Mick?
6 weeks.
6 weeks, ladies and gentlemen. Give Mick a round of applause. Right then, so no pressure, but the demo's over to you, my friend. What have you got for us?
Hello, everyone. I'm Mick Suthers, the technical sales engineer for Silverson in the north of the UK. I'll be carrying out the live demonstration, and I'll be handing the mic back while I demonstrate some of our products, and you guys watch me hopefully do everything okay.
It's off to a great start, Mick. Thank you very much indeed for being a sport here. Everyone's on your team, so let's have a chat through what it is, and maybe you can help us, James, here, given that Mick is currently microphone-less, because he needs 2 hands to demo, doesn't he? So
yes.
What are we going to look at first of all?
Well, actually, just behind you, Mick, there, on your right-hand side, we can actually see some rotor-stator configurations, which might be good just to start off, because this is the internal components of the flash mix machine that really is where all the magic happens.
So, to use a pretty blunt term, you've been talking about the rotor-stator technology, you've been talking about what comes out of these machines. This is the secret sauce.
This is absolutely the secret sauce. So what you can see there is 2 components. Both of them are precision manufactured out of a solid billet of stainless steel 316. We can obviously make it from more durable materials as well. But this is responsible for giving the high shear. So what this rotor-stator is doing is pulling in the liquid that you're feeding to the mixer, and then it's forcing that fluid in between those 2 parts of steel. Usually that shear gap is measured in microns, so it's very, very small gap, rotating at very high speeds, and that's what gives it its high shear. And that's also what's responsible for very quickly dispersing powders in the FMX system. Okay,
very good. Thank you very much indeed for showing us that. That makes it, again, you mentioned all of those names and stuff. Actually seeing it there like that makes it very, very relatable. Should we see it in action?
Yes, Mick, do you want to head over to shall we go straight to the flash mix system? I was hoping that we might show you some other mixes as well, but actually we might be short on time, so we'll go straight to the flash mix.
Okay.
So here it is. Here's the FMX10. You can see it. You saw it at the beginning of the presentation behind me. So what we've got there on the left-hand side of the screen, you've got the FMX10 or mini flash mix, we can call it. That's the system there. What Mick's doing now is he's pouring in some powders to the powder feed hopper.
Is this the guar gum that you were mentioning a moment ago? Or is
I'm not
this
sure. He might actually be putting in some sugar to begin with.
Okay.
Now, sugar, for completely different reasons, can be a challenging powder to work with. In its solid form, it can be quite abrasive. And
Yes.
therefore, for configurations like this, we will change the specification of the machine so it can very effectively manage the abrasiveness of sugar syrups. And one of the applications it's used for is generating high brix sugar syrups with no temperature at all. And that provides a really good benefit, again, for the food industry.
You mentioned how you would change the configuration of the machine. Is that an engineering update? Is that something you would do in the specification and build? Or can those be changed once the machine's already installed on the floor?
That's a really good question, because ordinarily, for many machines, that is something that would need to be built into the specification when you order the machine. And the flash mix range is quite unique in that there's actually a lot of flexibility in the specification after you've bought and purchased the machine. So we can actually change work heads, mechanical shaft seal arrangements to accommodate different products on the flash mix system. So what we're aiming for is you buy a machine once, and then forevermore you'll be able to use it for 100 different applications and just adjust it.
And particularly when we're talking about a prototype scale machine like the FMX10, you're calling it, that agility is going to be really useful.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, we're aiming for versatility with all the machines. You can actually see now, so Mix open the powder feed valve, and it's sucking in both the sugar and the guar gum that's sitting on the top there, and that will just gently feed into the mixer. What that mixer is doing, it's recirculating around a vessel, it's drawing in a vacuum underneath the hopper, and it's pulling in the powders. As it's doing that, the solution in the vessel will be thickening up, the viscosity is going up, and that's... the machine will then balance the amount of vacuum under the hopper according to the viscosity of the machine. No AI involved, I assure you. It's unhackable. So now that batch is done, I mean, that happened, it happened very quickly. So in about 10 seconds or whatever that was there, it's pulled in the guar gum. Now, what Mick's doing now is he's waiting patiently for the FMX10 to recirculate that product a few times, especially with something like guar gum, which we mentioned before. It's a very thickening powder, it's quite tricky to handle. It's quite important that we just move that through the system a few times to homogenize the mix, to give you that beautiful, smooth consistency. And then once that's done, we've actually set up the system there with a three-way valve, so we're going to have our guar gum solution on tap. So we can take a sample out there and see what the end result is.
There we go, right. We just get right on top and see that coming out the nozzle, please, Nickel. There we go.
If it's finished, if we've given it about 30 seconds of recirculation there.
There we go.
We've got so that is our sugar and guar gum mix there. We can see there's a few air bubbles just coming out of the solution there. Now, this is actually typical of a premix that you might find in the food industry. So you might be making a concentrate of your guar gum mix that would then be dosed into a much larger batch, whether it's a soup or a sauce, or even sometimes plant-based milk beverage, something like that. And that's the system. Now, that trial, of course, took us all of 1 minute to produce that. On the larger scale, we might be looking to complete a batch in, say, 20 minutes that historically might have taken hours to mix something like that. Now, I know Mick's got some, if you've got any guar gum left there, Mick, we could even try mixing it into some water just to show you the difference.
Oh, here we go. So this is the manual version of this process, is it?
So he's chucking a bit of guar gum in there.
There he is with his spatula.
There we go. So we can actually see in the solution there, we've got some lovely big lumps of guar gum floating around on the surface, sticking to the side of the vessel. This is very typically what we would see in the food industry, in the farm industry, when people are using these thickening compounds. This is what the inside of the vessel looks like.
Mate,
and they've got to clean that down, they've got to put it through a filtration process to get those agglomerates out. They install the flash mix and all those problems go away.
Irrelevant story. I've taken up baking bread. In fact, I'm now a prize-winning bread baker. Sourdough, just the flour and the water. I wish I had a machine like this for that, because mixing it by hand is a nightmare, although I like to think that's all part of the process. But yes, I completely understand the difference there and the value of the showing manually there, particularly with a product like guar gum, trying to mix that together. Mick, you've done a fantastic job there, mate. Thank you very much indeed. And again, no apologies for throwing you in the deep end. 6 weeks in. Is there anything else you'd like Mick to show us while we're there for 2 or 3 minutes?
Well, first of all, Thank you very much, Mick, and you've passed your probation. So well done. All went very well. Whilst we've got a moment, we can show you, if you move over to your right-hand side, Mick, we've got the conventional batch, top-entry batch mixer there on the right-hand side. So what you can see here, this is a machine that many people here will be very familiar with. This is the standard Silverson top-entry machine, and this is usually, we've used this for the same application. Yep. It does a great job of incorporating thickening powders. We tend to find that we use this for smaller batch sizes, so up to about a 1-ton batch size, the batch mixer would be suitable for, and this is a system that does both the agitation task of the vessel, yep, and it pulls in the powder and disintegrates into the solution. And then just behind there, we can show you the lab machine as well. Mick, if you want to do that.
On the plinth.
On the plinth. These very easy to use lab machines. This is actually the starting point for many companies that are introduced to Silverson machines, especially in the cosmetics industry. Silverson machines are used for making lovely glossy creams. And giving them the nice consistency that they have, incorporating flavor and fragrance compounds into creams, which is very important. And this is actually Silverson's bestseller, and always has been.
But still at the bottom there, you've got the rotor stator.
Absolutely, yeah. So all of these machines are adaptations of that original rotor stator technology that was pioneered back in the 40s, when it was essentially an ice cream mixer. And now it's used for so many different industries all over the world.
Like you say, very apt, us being based next door to Mr. Softy over there, who's been sharing ice cream to the masses today. Listen, Mick, I think we'll call it a day there for your live demo. Everyone, Mick's been a great sport for jumping in on this today. Give Mick a big round of applause over there at the Silverson stands. Thanks a lot, mate. All right, James, that was good fun. I think we covered a lot of ground there in the 5 or 10 minutes that we were there. Just coming back to the hero product, if you like, what we're focusing in on today, the FMX10. One thing we didn't cover there is maintenance. You spoke about agility, versatility there, important for the kind of applications that you see that being used in. But what's the kind of maintenance cycle on these units? Yes,
no, it's a great question. And actually that's one of the really big advantages, well, firstly of Silverson machines, but in particular the inline machines, because inline machines by their very nature sit outside the vessel. And that gives you the advantage of you don't have to be climbing onto the top of a vessel, you don't have to be going into a vessel to access the working parts. And actually the design of the inline mixer and the flash mix as well is the maintenance tasks are designed not to have to be done very frequently. You know, we're building machines that are very robust. The mechanical shaft seals, which perhaps is the main wear component of these machines, are made with very hard materials. Precisely because of what they're doing. They're pulling in powders that might be abrasive, they're mixing fluids at a range of temperatures, viscosities, they need to be hard wearing, and they also need to be very cleanable. So they're fully product immersed, they're cleaned out completely between batches. These machines are completely CIP-able, which is fantastic. That keeps not only the operations side down, but maintenance tasks go down immensely. But where there are routine maintenance tasks, they're designed to be done on site. We don't want to have to be sending somebody out for these maintenance tasks. It needs to be something that somebody can go there on site and quickly replace a mechanical shaft seal or a rotor or a stator, whatever might be needed, quick and easily. And these tasks only typically need to be done once every 5 years or something for these machines, depending on the application. So the maintenance requirement really is very low with these.
I invite our audience to sharpen their mental pencils for questions. If you have any questions, Abby has the microphone at the back, and just pop your hand up and Abby will come and find you. Love to hear your questions for James here on the sofa. Final question from me, though, maybe final question, let's see how we do. You've spoken a lot about the kind of core technologies that have been present since the 1940s in your ice cream mixers and so on. With this tabletop smaller unit, the FMX10 that you're talking about, is it essentially the same technology? Are there any compromises with the smaller size, or are you essentially getting the full fat but in a smaller package?
Yeah, again, great question. So this comes down to the question of scale up. So a lot of the time these small machines sometimes they are the production machine of our customer because they are manufacturing in small batches.
Yeah.
Other times they're getting these machines for R&D purposes. They want to develop a new product, and the follow-on from that is they want to find a way of making it on a larger scale. Now, we need to ensure that the performance that they're getting at the small scale is the same on the larger scale. And there are complications to doing that. Scale up is never an easy task, and you're working with components that are much smaller than the production machines.
Yep.
So there are some changes on something like the FMX10. So people notice that on our larger machines, those will typically run at 3,000 RPM, nominal speed of a two-pole motor. On these smaller machines, we actually run these machines up to 10,000 RPM because we're looking to replicate the mechanical shear rates that the larger machines are performing at. Now, I won't go into detail about the science behind that, but what we're essentially doing is replicating the physics that the larger machines are putting into the products, so that what you do on the FMX10 is the same as the FMX50, the 75, the 100, throughout that entire scale-up process.
Which means that as you scale up, what you have prototyped on the smaller machine is going to be more easily replicable as you scale up on the machinery side.
That's exactly right. And on that point, there are some limitations. You'll notice that the hopper size on the FMX10 is not as big as it's going to be on a production scale model. So if you've got powders that have big lumps, it's partially hydrated, things like that, we can find sometimes that can be a struggle to get through the small hopper of the FMX10. So sometimes there are some compromises there, perhaps, that we tend to see those go away on the larger scale. But the main thing is, whatever performance that we see on the smaller scale, we can absolutely guarantee we're going to get that on the larger scale. So that's the main thing, is to take the guesswork out of that scale-up process.
Okay. Do we have any questions for James on what we've been seeing today on the Silverson line at all? Yes. Well, hello. We have a question at the back. I recognize that T-shirt. Hello.
Hi. First of all, that was a really great presentation. I was just wondering, you were just mentioning about scalability, and presumably there's quite a bit of trial and error with that process. Do you have a sort of method of how you would help the customer do that? What is Silverson's how would they get the customer to walk away knowing that their scale up is going to be replicated?
No, really good question. There's a few options for doing that, and Silverson, for the 75 years Silverson's been around, it's always been a very trial focused company, and especially the sort of fluids that people are processing with Silverson machines vary massily. We're not dealing with steady state systems. These are very transient systems where viscosity is changing. We've got shear thickening fluids, shear thinning fluids. The rheology is all over the place. And so really the best way to ensure that a process works is just to get on and do it. So we have a series of inline machines, flash mix machines, including the FMX10. The FMX10 that we have here today is at the moment the only machine. This is the launch prototype machine that's on the stand at the moment, and we've currently got 3 more machines in production specifically so our customers who are asking for these can take them away on trial. Some of them are here today as well. But the other option that we have, aside from sending machines to our customers to try, is our custom-built trial facility over in Cheshire, where we invite our customers over to set up our machines with some vessels and equipment that we have there, so we can run that trial together. And then you've got the benefit of working directly with our staff who know the machine inside out, who can offer some assistance as to how to get the best parameters out of the machine, get the best performance, before they then take a machine away, install it on site, and by that point they know how to run the machine perfectly anyway.
Super stuff. Thank you very much indeed for your question. Any more questions from the floor?
I should mention, we actually had some help with the demonstration today when we were mixing in guar gum. The one thing that we forgot was some mixing implements to show that, and BST over here kindly gave us some metal detectable mixers that you'd often see in the food industry as well, so thank you very much.
Super stuff. Right then, if we have no more questions, then what I will say is AOB time, James. AOB, is there anything that we haven't spoken about? And if not, then just tell us how we can engage with you either come to your stand or if we're watching this online in the future, how people can best get in touch with you and find out more about FMX10 and the rest of the hardware that you produce.
Absolutely. Well, yes, we're stand F70 today, so if you come out here, it's a 2-minute walk in that sort of direction there. We've got a range of machines on the stand. We can talk about those. The Silverson website is a fantastic resource of not just all the technical information for the products, but we've got a massive video bank. So if you want to see any of these machines working, in particular, if you've got applications that you're working on, we've got a section on the website. You can just type in what you're working with, and the chances are we've got an application page set up with recommendations for machines, but also videos of making a whole range of products with the Silverson machine. It's a brilliant resource to go and have a look online there as well.
Super stuff. Well, speaking of brilliant resources, you, James, and your colleague Mick down the line have been brilliant resources for us here today. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for James and Mick from Silverson.